Welcome to the Multipeak Marketing Podcast. Brace yourself, because we're bringing you top-level value, revealing powerful insights, and speaking to top individuals in the orthodontic industry. Let's start elevating your marketing knowledge with your host, Tyler Terrell.
Welcome, everyone. I'm here with Dr. Inessa Kandov. Let's talk a little bit about you and your background.
Hi, my name is Dr. Inessa Kandov, and I am a board-certified orthodontist. I wasn't always an orthodontist. I am originally from the former Soviet Union. I came to America when I was 6 years old, and there was always a big push in my family to get educated and to do well. But my father grew up very poor, and so he always instilled in me a very strong work ethic. So he kind of forced me to get a job at age 15. Against my will, but in hindsight, I'm extremely grateful to him for making me do that. I worked in optometry, and that instilled so much of my work ethic to this day. I'm extremely grateful, and I can definitely see myself doing that with my own children. I learned a lot about customer service and the importance of working and discipline and really being part of a team. And so when I went to college, I went to St. John's, and then and that's when I discovered, I think at age 21, I discovered working in an oral surgery office that I really liked dentistry. I had no one in my family who was a dentist. It was completely new to me. I had no one to turn to. And I was very lucky to meet some wonderful mentors along the way. And I went to Stony Brook Dental School, which is where I met my husband. And when I graduated, I had my first child at the end of third year, which is when most people go into specialty, but my mind was elsewhere. So I graduated and I thought, okay, I'm going to become a general dentist. I'm going to practice with my husband. I had a whole life plan. I always had a life plan in my brain. And after working for a few years, I realized I'm just not happy. Something is not right. Something just doesn't seem right. And he was so happy doing general dentistry. Like it truly spoke to him. So watching him be so happy, it made me realize something is truly missing in my life. And I was very lucky at that moment, after giving birth to my second daughter, to hear one day out of the blue from an orthodontist I had shadowed years earlier. She called me and said, Inessa, I really think you should come work with me. And I said, Dr. Andrade, I don't know if this is the right field for me. I really don't know much about ortho. I didn't take much interest in it in dental school. I was more into surgeries. She said, you know what, if you don't give this a try, you will always regret this. And that really spoke to me. So she took me by the hand. She taught me how she works, and her style, there's nothing else like it. It's kind of like the old school way of working. She would explain everything to the patient. She was so meticulous. She was so detail oriented. A lot of the things that I learned and I do now, I realize in hindsight has really come from her and the way she taught me. She held my hand as I got into ortho, and I went to Montefiore Medical Center for residency. I was the oldest resident there. I was in my early 30s. The only one with one of the few with a family and a few kids. And maybe because I had the previous experience of being a general dentist, I was very no nonsense when it came to my residency. I was there to learn as much as possible in the shortest period of time. That helped a lot.
That's awesome. Enter BayView Orthodontics.
When I graduated from residency, a lot of my peers wanted to go and work full time in one office. I didn't want that because I had worked elsewhere as a general dentist. I wasn't supposed to, but I was moonlighting even during residency as a general dentist because I wanted to get I always wanted my hands to stay skillful. So I gradually transitioned to doing orthodontics while in residency. So when I graduated, my mindset was not one job 5 days a week. My mindset was 5 jobs 1 day a week, because I wanted to learn as much as possible about every office in the shortest period of time. If you work in one office, you only learn one way of doing something, whether it's marketing, whether it's the staffing, whether it's, do you want to be in a Medicaid mill? Do you want to be in a high-end office? I was literally all over the place. I worked in GP offices. I worked in a high-end boutique orthodontic office in Tribeca. I worked in literally a Medicaid mill the next day in a different borough. I was traveling all over the place. I was exhausted for working like that for a year. I learned so much. Like one day you could be seeing 30 patients, the next day I'd be in an office where we were seeing 110 patients together. And all those experiences added up to learning so much. But it came to the point where I became burnt out. I became very burnt out. And my husband gave me an ultimatum. He said, either you get your own place or you're just going to stop practicing orthodontics, because I was working 5-6 days a week. This was before COVID. And so I had this wonderful opportunity that opened up. It was right next to my husband's dental office. This building used to be a movie theater. So the ceilings are like wonderfully high. They're like 19 feet high. And the place spoke to me. I was just very scared about opening an office so close to my husband. I was very afraid of referrals, very afraid. But I ended up taking the plunge, signing the lease. It took 6 months to build out. Right as it was fully built out, I hired my 2 first employees. We start training. 2 weeks later, COVID shut down. I had a nervous breakdown. I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. It was a very scary time. So I was forced to fire my staff, and then I rehired them within a month. We were doing emergencies, and we literally started at the height of COVID. Like, and I always say, like, if you can make it through that time, you can make it through anything. So it's been 2 years of my office.
Wow. So coming out of that COVID point, where did you see yourself moving? Like, what kind of direction? What helped with that? Can you tell me more on that?
Because I was so burnt out from working in different offices, I kind of knew what I didn't want. That's how I've always been. I always know what I don't want. I couldn't quite figure out what I did want. In terms of my office opening, I really did have a lot of help. I hired a wonderful team to help me come up with the design, help me come up with the logistics of everything, because I didn't know. And it's okay not to know. Unfortunately, and I really think that this is really like a detriment to all doctors across the board, whether you're a physician or a dentist, we're not really taught the business side of things. We're really not. We're taught the clinical side of things. Nobody sits down with you and really explains to you how to balance everything. What is collections? What is productions? How do you think about conversion? Everything is about systems. Everything comes down to systems and making sure everything is profitable. I'm literally learning by the seat of my pants. Like, I'm always learning. Like, there's always something I don't know. And it's so scary to admit you don't know something, because you look around and you think everybody knows except you. And that's not true. It's a very humbling experience, realizing that there's so much you don't know. And you're just kind of trying to wing it. Every single day you get up and you just try to wing it. And hopefully you do great that day. But what we decided was, I didn't want like what I saw in Tribeca, the boutique office. It was a little too boutiquey. It wasn't for me, not that type of caliber of patients. But I also didn't want like a Medicaid mill. I didn't want a factory where you just literally come in and you're like a number. Nobody knows you, nobody remembers you. What did we do? We have no idea. I didn't want that. I want something in the middle. And after watching multiple offices, one more thing I did, I visited a lot of other offices. I shadowed at least 10 successful offices in the New York City area. That was so helpful. I highly recommend that to everyone. If you come across an office that you see maybe on social media that you think is great, or maybe your old orthodontic office, ask them if you can come in and visit. I know with COVID, it was a little hard to come in, but it was so helpful. I would spend the whole day learning from everyone, the front and the back. So that's when I kind of had an idea of what I wanted. So we wanted geared towards like a digital office, more digital. So seeing less patients and really trying to be more efficient with time. And we're working towards that. We're trying to develop systems to get us to that point.
Right. That's awesome. So you talked about switching to digital. So how does your 115,000 TikTok followers play into that?
That was pure accident. People ask me like, what did you do? I'm like, I have no idea how we did that, because it was really my wonderful assistant, Elisa, who did this. I mean, she was like the brainchild behind this. She would just take random videos of me working, and it just took off from there. And it's so funny when people say you're like a social media sensation. I'm like, what? Me? Like, I don't even, I'm like so not like that. But I'm just realizing that digital is probably it's the way of the future. This is how it is. I want to be there for my patients. When people walk in, I want them to have a smile on their face. If you take a tour of my office, you'll notice there's no teeth anywhere. Like I don't have teeth anywhere except the consult room, just showing off some braces. That's it. I don't have them there. I want you to feel like you're walking into a very safe place, because from all my years as a general dentist, there were so many people who were so afraid of the dentist, terrified, horrible experiences from childhood, whether they were kids or adults. I remember that. So I don't ever want people to feel that way when they come into my office. I want them to feel very safe and happy.
Right.
And I think digital is going to make it just a very pleasant experience where they're not spending too much time in the chair, because everything is indirectly bonded.
Right. And you talked about when you were the age of 15, like customer service was a huge factor. So I know before talking, we talked a lot about how that plays into your patients and giving them that personal touch and that personal experience. So talk on that.
I was very shy at age 15. I thought I was, the shit. I thought I knew everything. I didn't know squat. I didn't know anything at all. It was my father who forced me to get a job. I was just happened to be walking by and I saw an ad for an optometry office. They were looking for a receptionist. And when I walked in, they asked me how old I was. And I fibbed and I said, I'm almost 16. And meanwhile, I just turned 15. Literally like a month earlier, I just turned 15, and they interviewed me and they hired me because I guess of my maturity, but I was so shy. I didn't know how to talk to people. A job like that forces you to learn things about your personality you had no idea even existed. So I was making appointments. I was always picking up the phones, and then you take initiative. So I started learning how to teach people how to put contact lenses in their eyes. I used to be so scared to sell glasses. For me, that was my worst nightmare because, again, I was very shy. I thought I wouldn't do a good job. Then one day, 2 people didn't show up to work. And the manager looked at me and said, Inessa, it's your day. You have to help me. There's no choice. It's me and you only. And, I remember that day so clearly. I think I was maybe 17. I sold like 5 to 10 glasses that day. That was by far one of the best days of my life because I didn't know that I could do that. You just have to, again, bond with the person. You have to bond with the patient and just take your time. You might sell 1 that day. You might sell 20. It doesn't matter. Like once you develop a rapport with the patient, you're golden. Everything is good. Again, it's the connection. And so my manager and my boss, they both came up to me and they said, you have to do something in medicine. You have to work with patients. This is what you're good at. So they kind of steered me in the direction that I was supposed to go into.
Right. So you would say kind of like that day when you had to step up, that was kind of like life-changing.
Yes, that's where you learn. And I feel like sometimes people expect everything to be instant gratification. They just expect to get paid $20 an hour, and I was getting paid $6 an hour. And I remember back then minimum wage was $5.25. And I remember thinking, wow, I'm caking it. I am doing so well. And I was getting taxed on most of my money. Yeah. And when I came home and I gave my dad the check, I said, well, this is probably what you wanted, right? And he looks at me, he's like, I don't want your money at all. He's like, the whole reason of you going to work is I want you to learn the value of $1. Right. And my mind was blown. He's like, I don't want any of your money. I just want you to realize how hard it is for you to make that $1. How hard did you have to work this hour to make the $3 that you took home after the paycheck? Mm-hmm. He made me get buy my own cell phone. Like everything was on my own. I had to open my own bank account. And I was so angry back then. I was like, why is my father so strict with me? And now I realize it's so important. So now like the work ethic that I've instilled in myself and hopefully my staff, I hope to instill in my kids, because I sometimes see that lacking with certain people. They just expect things to happen and they don't realize there's a lot of grunt work that's involved and a lot of yourself you have to give in order to receive something. It doesn't happen automatically. And I always tell this to my staff, I'd rather sleep well at night and know that we did the right thing than do something that we're going to regret later. So if there's a situation that's a little iffy, I'd rather do something where I am going to lose money, but I'd rather sleep well at night and make sure everybody is happy at work than do the other way around and be nervous all night. I don't want that. Right. So we really want to practice in a way where it's as if like you're treating a family member. What would you do if you were treating a family member?
Amazing. So where do you see your practice going? Like, what direction do you see your practice going? Are you going to open up another one maybe, or?
I always say this to my husband. If I was a guy, I would be like already thinking about opening up multiple offices, but it's a little tough as a woman, um, balancing both an office, a business, thank God, a thriving business, and your family, your two children. I really try to want to build up this office to the best of its capability. I think there's so much potential in my office. I try so hard not to compete with other people. When I was opening up even this office, so many people said to me, "Are you sure you want to open in Bayside? Because there's so many orthodontists near you." But there's so many doctors everywhere. Like on every single block, you're gonna find them. If you kind of just like stick to your own lane and focus on your own motto, you don't compete with each other. Everybody has their bread. Everybody has enough like on the table to survive and to do well in their life. In terms of what my future holds, I have no idea. Maybe, but I will say it's like not easy running a business. It's very stressful. It's like my third child. I say this to everybody. This is my third child.
Mhm.
It will never go out of infancy though. My kids know how to eat and brush their hair and get dressed. My third child does not know how to do any of those things, and it never will. So it has to constantly be watered and nurtured constantly. So I'm always thinking about what is next? What do I do? My brain is always going about what is the next plan? What is the next giveaway? What is the next thing that I'm going to implement in the office? So I don't know. What the future is the limit. I have no idea.
Right. Awesome. To wrap things up, do you got any like golden nuggets you give to someone, either just starting out or what year are you said you're like in your fourth year practicing?
No, I graduated from ortho residency in 2018. I practiced for 2 years
Okay.
in other offices. I opened in 2020, March 2020, forced to shut down, restarted,
Right.
rebooted in June 2020. I've been practicing for 2 years.
Okay.
And I was 35 when I started my office.
Wow.
And again, I'm older than a lot of my peers, but I think it's been such a help. All of those life experiences were so helpful because we treat a lot of adults, we treat a lot of kids, and everything that I did with general dentistry, I kind of just reapply into ortho. It's the same thing. It just may be a different technique. That's all it is. It's really getting to know the patient and truly feel like you are bonding with them. You bond with them for life. What would I tell somebody? I always tell people, don't make enemies. Really try to maintain good relationships with people. I've learned that over the years. It's very important because you never know who's going to help you. Like for my mentor, Dr. Andrada, who would have known when I was in dental school, I had shadowed her a few times in dental school. Who would have known that she would have called me out of the blue 3 or 4 years later, telling me like, why don't you come in, work for me? She literally held my hand for ortho. She taught me so much. When you're starting out, you should really try to form connections and maintain friendships with people. I still talk to my wonderful attending, Dr. Nafi, for my residency program. And if I'm having like a tough case, I still call him and I say, Dr. Nafi, let's talk about this. Let's go over different treatment plans. And that's okay. That's really okay. It's okay to not know something. So when I didn't know how to open my office. I knew that I needed outside help. Did I have to invest a lot into my office? Yes. Don't be afraid to invest. I think a lot of people are like watching their bottom dollar and they want to make as much profit as possible, as quickly as possible. But somebody that I learned from, he said, I invested everything that I made, all my profits the first year, and I just kept reinvesting the first year or two. And this guy became so successful within such a short period of time, like everybody knows him in Long Island. And that's what I did. I didn't take a paycheck home for a good year and a half. Everything I made, I like kept reinvesting into the office in terms of marketing, Google marketing, which was very helpful. Everything, anything you can think of, I was doing in terms of giveaways, anything. I think it's helpful. Like you give a little and you're going to receive so much afterwards. Don't be afraid to give, because if you're like very stingy, and I think you're going to grow a lot slower than somebody who goes all in. I know somebody who opened their office and they only equipped a few chairs. They didn't equip all of their chairs. That was not my mentality. My mentality was, as soon as I opened, I was like, in my head, I already thought I was successful. Even though I had like 3 patients a day, I had no one. But in my head, like all the chairs were fully equipped. Everything was ready to go. I was open all days. I didn't like start out with like 1 day a week or 2 days a week. I was open all those days because in my head, I truly thought we're already busy. We're already doing great. Maybe it's law of attraction. Like, this is where we are. We're available for you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday. Whatever day you want it, we got it for you. I think it's very important to come in with the mindset of, we're already successful. Like, what can we do to make your experience great? And it's okay not to know, ask around, become friends with people. Sometimes it's easier to make friends with people who don't live next to you, because unfortunately people consider you competition. So some of the most wonderful like mentors and friendships I've maintained are from people from outside the state. Like, I interact with them on Instagram and they've been so helpful. And the braces guy, even, he approved my floor plan. I asked him for advice and he gave it to me. He didn't have to do that for me. That was so nice of him. And he did that. I'll never forget that. And I hope I can do that for someone when they're starting out. Like, we just have to keep being respectful of each other within the community.
I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Inessa. Where can they go and follow you at? I know you got a big TikTok following, but keep up to date with everything, and to see what's working for you. I'd probably suggest like TikTok. That'd probably be the best one.
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, BayView Ortho NY. We're always there. We love to work with our patients, and anything that we can do, I will always be of help if I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.